There's a pattern older than language, older than religion, older than time itself. It appears in the growth of a sunflower, in the orbit of planets, in the spiral of galaxies, and most surprisingly, in you. It's not just beautiful, it's not just mathematical, it's the blueprint of creation. This is sacred geometry. But what is it really? It's not just shapes, it's not just ancient symbols etched into stone. It's the language the universe uses to organize itself. It's the code behind the code, guiding the structure of everything from atoms to ecosystems to entire realities. We're told creation is random, that life is chaotic, that form is accidental, but sacred geometry reveals something radically different. Form follows frequency, and frequency follows intelligence. You're not living in a meaningless cosmos, you're living in a patterned field. The ancients knew this. They didn't stumble onto geometric designs by accident, they received them. Through trance, through vision, through direct contact with the underlying order of reality. That's why the flower of life appears on every continent, why mandalas echo the same symmetry across cultures that never met, why ancient temples align with the stars, built according to the same proportions found in your DNA. Because this pattern isn't cultural, it's universal. And once you recognize it, you stop seeing the world as random and start seeing it as encoded. The most recognized symbol in sacred geometry, the one whispered across civilizations, etched into ancient temples, hidden in cathedrals and crop circles alike, is the flower of life. At first glance, it seems simple, overlapping circles arranged in a hexagonal grid. But look closer and you'll realize this is not decoration, it's instruction, a map. A cosmological algorithm disguised as art. Here's what it reveals. Start with one circle, pure unity, the origin. Then draw another, intersecting. Now you have duality, contrast, awareness of separation. Add a third. Now you have the Vesica Piscis, the womb of creation. Keep going, and suddenly the structure of light, sound, and even matter unfolds before your eyes. This isn't philosophy, it's physics in visual form. Inside this one pattern, you can derive the seed of life, the tree of life, Metatron's cube, the golden ratio, and even the Platonic solids, the 5 geometries that underlie all physical form. And here's what most people don't know. These shapes aren't arbitrary. Each one corresponds to an element: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. They're the energetic building blocks of existence. From the spin of molecules to the architecture of galaxies, it all mirrors back to this source code. Ancient initiates weren't just drawing symbols, they were working with frequency-based architecture. They understood that geometry is the bridge between thought and form, between the unseen and the manifest. It's how spirit becomes matter. That's why these patterns were kept hidden or distorted. Because if you knew how reality was constructed, you'd know how to construct it. And that's power. Power to align, power to build, power to remember that creation isn't outside of you. It moves through you with every thought, emotion, and intention you emit into the field. Let's step deeper into the mystery, because once you understand sacred geometry isn't just visual, but vibrational, everything starts to shift. Every shape has a frequency. Every frequency creates a pattern, and the patterns we call sacred geometry are the visible evidence of invisible forces. This is where the science meets the spirit. Take cymatics, for example, the study of how sound creates form. When a frequency is played through a medium like water or sand, it organizes into intricate, symmetrical patterns, and those patterns, they mirror sacred geometry almost perfectly. Low frequencies create simple forms. Higher frequencies generate complex, beautiful, evolving designs. Now think about this. If sound can shape matter, and your thoughts and emotions generate vibrations, what are you shaping, consciously or not? You are not separate from the field. You are a node in it. A participant in an ongoing act of creation, echoing out patterns every moment you exist. And what's more, your very body is built on these geometries. The proportions of your face, the spirals of your DNA, the branching of your nervous system, they all follow golden ratios, Fibonacci sequences, and fractal symmetry. Not because nature is artistic, but because structure follows energy, always. This is the true meaning behind as above, so below. The same code that builds a galaxy builds your cells. The same geometry that defines a snowflake is embedded in the way your heart generates its electromagnetic field. We've been taught to look outward for the divine, but sacred geometry turns that lens inward and reveals that you are made of the pattern you've been seeking. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You begin to sense that everything has alignment, everything has resonance, and everything, no matter how random it seems, has order behind it. Most people move through the world unaware of the geometry shaping their reality, but not the ancients. To them, geometry wasn't just aesthetics, it was ritual, a sacred practice, a way to harmonize with the very structure of existence. They aligned temples to solstices using golden ratios. They designed cities with mandalas hidden in the street grids. They built pyramids encoded with the phi ratio, the square root of 2, and other cosmic constants, not for beauty, but for resonance, because they knew a truth modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Form amplifies frequency, and when you shape a space according to sacred geometry, that space doesn't just look different, it feels different, it vibrates, it activates. Walk into a Gothic cathedral, a Hindu temple, a desert kiva. You can feel it, not superstition, not imagination. That's spatial resonance. These weren't random cultural expressions. They were attempts to mirror the divine blueprint, to pull the eternal into the physical, to make heaven touch earth through proportion, symmetry, and intentional alignment. But here's where it gets personal, because sacred geometry isn't just out there in buildings and stars. It's inside your own energy field. Your chakras align along your spine according to ratios that mirror the Fibonacci sequence. Your pineal gland is shaped like a pine cone, echoing the spiral geometry found in galaxies and sunflower seeds alike. Even your thoughts follow geometric rhythm. Electroencephalograph, EEG readings show waveforms that fractal and mirror back into themselves. That's not chaos, that's design. You are not just a participant in this geometry, you are a mirror of it, and this realization, it shifts something, because now you don't just live in creation, you become co-creator. If this pattern feels familiar, it's because you're made of it. Subscribe and hit the bell, because remembering the blueprint is how creation begins again. Let's get even more real. If sacred geometry is the architecture of the universe, then that means your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions are all building something. Every belief you hold, every mental loop you run, creates patterns in your energy field. And those patterns, just like somatics, begin to arrange your external reality to match them. That's not metaphor, that's resonance. You see, geometry isn't just in shapes, it's in choices. When your thoughts are coherent, your emotions aligned, your actions intentional, you generate harmonic patterns in your field. Those patterns interact with the greater field, syncing with opportunities, timelines, and people vibrating at the same resonance. But when your thoughts are scattered, reactive, or conflicted, you create interference, and your outer life mirrors that static. This is why spiritual awakening isn't just about love and light. It's about repatterning. It's about upgrading the internal structure so the external form follows. And guess what? Sacred geometry gives you the map. That's why tools like mandalas, yantras, and crop circles aren't just pretty symbols. They're blueprints. When you meditate on them, trace them, even place them in your space, you're aligning your subconscious with universal form. It's like tuning your inner radio to the station where creation actually happens. Ever noticed how some symbols feel charged? How certain patterns seem to pull you inward or open your heart without explanation? That's not random. That's resonant memory. Because somewhere deep inside, your energy remembers this geometry. It recognizes it, trusts it, aligns with it. And in that alignment, you gain access to something almost forgotten. The power to shape reality not through force, but through form. And form is frequency made visible. There's something most people don't realize about the flower of life and other sacred patterns. They aren't static. They move, they evolve, they unfold, like living algorithms embedded in the structure of space itself. That's because sacred geometry isn't just a symbol, it's a process. A sequence of unfolding that reflects how consciousness expands, how reality builds itself layer by layer, frequency by frequency. The flower of life leads to the fruit of life, 13 spheres that, when connected, form Metatron's cube. And inside that cube, all 5 platonic solids. These are the geometric shapes that form the foundation of all physical matter. Tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, icosahedron. Each one matches an element, a vibration, a phase of transformation. They are, quite literally, the DNA of physical form. And when you meditate on these forms, draw them, trace their ratios, you begin to sense something beneath the surface. You're not just observing geometry, you're being recalibrated by it. That's why initiates across history used geometry not as art, but as initiation. They'd contemplate the Vesica Piscis, the golden spiral, or Metatron's cube for hours, not to analyze it, but to merge with it. Because when your mind and nervous system attune to this order, something happens. Mental chatter quiets, breath deepens. You drop into a kind of knowing that doesn't use words. It's like your cells start listening again, like your intuition sharpens not from effort, but from resonance, because you're feeding your system the same language that built the stars. And here's where it gets even deeper. These patterns don't just reflect the external world. They reflect you, your decisions, your evolution, your potential. You're not here to memorize sacred geometry. You're here to become it, a walking symmetry, a living frequency, a conscious point in the pattern that remembers how to build a universe from the inside out. Let's pull the lens back. What happens when enough people begin to remember this pattern? Not intellectually, but energetically. Not as a theory, but as a truth that pulses through their being. You start to see it everywhere. In nature, of course, shells, leaves, storms, rivers, but also in decisions, in relationships, in the rise and fall of civilizations, in the way ideas spread. It's all geometry. It's all fractal. Zoom in or out, and the pattern repeats. And this is where it gets undeniable. The world we live in today, chaotic, fragmented, collapsing in some places and being reborn in others, is also following a pattern. And the distortion you feel in society, in media, in culture, that's what happens when we build systems without geometry, without resonance, without coherence. It's like trying to construct a temple on a cracked foundation. And that's why remembering sacred geometry isn't just spiritual, it's revolutionary. Because when you apply it to your life, your routines, your environment, your inner architecture, you restore alignment. You stop living on someone else's timeline. You stop moving in straight lines and start living in spirals, growing, cycling, evolving with precision. This is why things like feng shui, ancient city planning, even crop formations, are geometry in action. They weren't random aesthetics, they were resonance maps, tools for inviting energy to flow instead of stagnate, for syncing human space with cosmic order. So the real question isn't what is sacred geometry, it's are you living in alignment with it, or are you building your life against the grain of the universe? Because here's the truth most never hear. When you align your energy with the pattern, the universe recognizes you, and it begins to organize around you, not out of luck, but out of resonance. Because you're no longer just surviving in chaos, you're living as the code. At this point, the question becomes personal, not what is the blueprint of creation, but how do I embody it? Because you're not here to just understand sacred geometry, you're here to live it, to become a stabilizing frequency in a world spinning off-center, to walk with the awareness that your every step, thought, and breath radiates a pattern, either in harmony with the field or in distortion. The choice is no longer abstract, it's energetic. So how do you begin? You start small, you observe. You begin to see the geometry in your daily rhythm, in your breath, in the way you sit, the way you arrange your space, the way you react to tension. Ask, is there flow? Is there symmetry? Is there space for coherence? Then you build. You add rhythm to your day. You rise and rest with natural light. You eat with intention. You move your body like it's part of something bigger, because it is. Then you listen to the spaces that make you feel expanded, to the sounds that tune you inward, to the people who stabilize your field, not drain it. And from there, the geometry begins to reveal itself. Not just in spirals and ratios, but in synchronicity, in clarity, in moments where time bends and the right word arrives without effort. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when you begin to vibrate in harmony with the blueprint. You become more than human. You become a conduit, a point through which the pattern expresses itself, not by shouting or controlling, but by resonating, quietly, steadily, and people feel it. They don't always know why, but they trust you. They're drawn to you because coherence is magnetic, and sacred geometry is the deepest coherence there is. So the mission becomes simple. Remember the pattern, live it, and let the field respond. You were never meant to feel lost in this universe. You were never meant to stumble in the dark, questioning your place, your path, your purpose. Because from the moment your consciousness entered this plane, a pattern was placed within you, a living code, a sacred architecture that mirrors the very structure of reality. You are not apart from creation. You are creation. Not a passenger, but a participant. Not a mistake, but a mathematical miracle. A fractal of the whole, moving through time, learning to remember what was never truly forgotten. And that's the real awakening. Not some distant enlightenment, but the moment you look at a spiral, a symbol, a seed, and something inside you says, I know this. I am this. You've seen it in dreams, in visions, in the strange pull you feel towards certain symbols. You felt it when time stopped, when energy surged through your chest, when a design echoed something so ancient, so intimate, it made your breath catch. That wasn't imagination, that was recognition. Because this isn't just a pattern, it's your origin story, A reminder written in geometry that you are not random, you are not small, you are encoded. And once you align with that code, the rules change. You don't chase meaning, you radiate it. You don't force change, you become it. And you realize the blueprint of creation isn't out there in the stars. It's beating inside you, right now. So here's my question for you. Have you ever seen or felt a pattern, maybe in nature, in a dream, in a piece of sacred art, that shook you? That felt like more than just a shape? Something alive? Drop it in the comments, because your memory might unlock someone else's. And just maybe, piece by piece, symbol by symbol, we start rebuilding the map back to who we've always been.